say that I think that the move by the stock exchange in putting together the junior market, is worthy of significant applause. I think Marlene and her team have done a fantastic job. She pushed this from ground zero all the way through, and it's definitely working. Despite the recession, there's only one way that in this environment you're going to be able to get a positive real return, and that is going to be through investing, your cash. I mean, once interest rates have come down to these levels and operating below inflation rate, individuals and institutions are going to look to the real sector to try and get above the inflation rate, and we're seeing that. And I'm encouraged by that. I think that is what's going to turn this recession. And I think the junior market offers a fantastic opportunity for investors to meet ideas and entrepreneurs and to help us to move this economy forward. So my answer to your question is I do think that there are going to be other listings. I do think that the listings are going to be primarily in the real sector, as opposed to the financial services industry. And I applaud it, and I look forward to it.
Okay. Now, Sushil, last year the market basically underperformed despite the fact that interest rates were at historic lows. So what do you attribute this underperformance? And what is your sense as to what is likely to happen this year?
I have a very extreme view. I think the investment managers in Jamaica are not up to the level of knowledge and understanding and foresight that they should have. I don't see why a pension fund, for example, should invest at 7% in a treasury bill and not take some risk to invest at 7% be in a stock. You get yield, you get profit, you get dividends, and you have a scope for capital appreciation. Second reason is, somehow or the other, for various reasons, in Jamaica the number of shareholders is not growing. The maximum number, as far as I know today, is 100,000. But 10 years ago it was probably 70 or 80,000. In Bangladesh, in 2006 we had 500,000 shareholders. Within 5 years, they have now 3 million shareholders. In Vietnam, the stock market started only 10 years ago. And they have 1,000 listed companies in 10 years. We have started 30 years ago, but we have only 38 companies. And the another 8 you can add now. So in other words, the investment managers are the main people who have not brought light to the investing community, to the students, that there is scope in the market. Nobody has even told you, and tell me if anybody knew this point before, that if you invested in separate stock 20 years ago, even if you invested $1, it is equal to $100 today. The investment has grown by 100 times, not 100%. Now this information has never been brought out in any of the publications of any of the investment advisory services in Jamaica. It's unfortunate. So these are the reasons.
Listen, you heard this, Sushil. To what extent is lack of a focused public education policy as to the importance of the equities and capital market a problem in that regard, raising the number of investors?
I think the short answer is it is a challenge. But if I could just perhaps share my personal experience just a bit to give some context as it relates to public education campaign in terms of the necessary PR program. My first entry involved in the stock market, both as an employee, as a worker, but as an investor, was back in maybe about 17 years ago. And my first job was at a stock brokerage firm. At the time, the market was experiencing, a lot of activity. The campaign, the publicity campaign around the stock market being an opportunity to assist in not just the development of the nation, but help individuals to accomplish their own goals, right, was heightened. I think in recent times we have not managed to on a broad scale base, get, we speak about it and we have different programs, but see it actually actualized in a real way. So back to Sushil's point is, what are the facts that are there to show it? Personally, I can speak for it myself. It took me through university because I was involved in a brokerage firm. There weren't as much persons who would have had the opportunity as myself. But the fact is, there's a way in which we can get across to the investment public, not just in documentation, but showing real hardcore facts. 100 times in separate is undoubtedly mining gold from the market. So I'd say we need to do some more work there. We need to do a little bit more work in terms of showing actual numbers so persons can really look at it and realize that there's still significant value to be had.
Who are we? The brokerage community, the stock exchange?
I think it's an industry, it's not everybody, because the stock exchange has ventured out in, I think it's the educational program for high school students, and I think UTech. But the entire brokerage community is involved. But just to add though, I think there's a fundamental issue as it relates to investors. Mr. Jain spoke to the number of shareholders growing. My recollection back in my first job, I can almost guarantee that 70, if not 80% of the current investors were the investors back 70 years ago. Yeah. And not just the number of shareholders, but the persons who are involved. And majority of persons who are involved now are more mature. Where are the opportunities for the younger investors to participate in the market? And there are some factors, and obviously one of the factors in terms of cost to invest in the market, in terms of it can be prohibitive. And how do we try to create a framework that is going to encourage, allow younger investors to participate in the market?
Back to you, Chris. One of the major strategic objectives of the current agreement with the International Monetary Fund is what we call fiscal sustainability. In order to deal with that, part of the thing is to rationalize the public sector, to bring the wage bill down from 11.5% of GDP to just over 9% of GDP in 2 years' time. Part of that is the privatization of some of the loss-making government entities, even privatization of some of the profitable ones. In our discussions with the general manager of the stock exchange, she said she has written to the administration on several occasions, indicating the willingness of the stock exchange to participate in that exercise without any answer up to now. To what extent do you believe using the exchange as part of this program could A, impact positively on the number of investors in the country, as well as impact on the government's finances in a positive way?
Well, I think we're most of us in this room already understand that. And, it's lost on me why that move hasn't been made. There are clearly great opportunities in the government's hands that can be privatized and reduce the debt burden. That's on the fiscal now. So I don't know what's holding that up, but one of the things that is required, and which I know is one of the reasons the stock exchange went down the road of the junior market, is a need for more listings. Because what you would have found as an investment manager managing a pension fund is that the number of investment opportunities were not growing. They were the same companies, and there were issues of concentration that came up from time to time in these trustee meetings. So the ability to look at different companies was a critical need, and the junior market has provided that. And I think that the investment managers for the pension funds and institutional investors are responding, and I'm very encouraged by that. So despite the public sector not providing us with inventory, I think that the private sector will, and as I said before, we look forward to that, and we look forward to more listings so that we can analyze and we can diversify our portfolios across several of the companies on the exchange.
Sushil, I mean, from where you sit, what